What if we listened to water? What would we hear? Water in all of its forms. The ocean, the clouds, the blood in our bodies. If we really listened, how would that change the choices that we're making, the way that we're living, the way that we're doing business, the way that we're governing, the way that we're doing our science, the way that we're doing our art? Back to the source poses that question. How do you cherish water? And how does the cherishing of water change the choices that you're making? Being an artist to me is about being in service to my community. It's one of the ways that I can be involved in my community in a way that nourishes and inspires and challenges. So I've worked in a number of different mediums. I began with textiles and clothing and costume, and involved in theatre and dance. And for me that was about bringing, it was almost like making little temples that we wore on our bodies, working with colour a lot, hand dyeing all the cloth that I worked with. And then moving into theatre and dance, it was very much about expression of reverence for life and exploration of old ways of communicating through ritual and dance and movement. And that naturally led into being involved in the kinds of events and dances and performances that were happening in the landscape. And so I moved into installation and sculptural works that worked directly with the land and the rocks and the waters of places to tell stories and be part of the continuum, if you like, of the past, the present and the future. So that's what that's looked like as public art, particularly in urban landscapes and quite large scale works, even in challenging environments such as motorways. But at all times the purpose has been to go below the surface, to listen to the memory of the land, the stories of the people of that place, and to be part of translating that into something that's visible, that carries forward stories that we want to take forward. So I was invited to become the digital artist in residence for the Big Idea, to celebrate 10th year of anniversary of being alive on the internet. We were really inspired by reflecting back 10 years and seeing that so many of the inspirations that we'd had have rolled out, not just with the Big Idea but in the world at large. And so we sat in our first meeting and pondered whether there was a spark that was fresh now, that we could explore, that would help us open out into what the next 10 years of communications and creative practice on this planet might mean. And our metaphors back then had been about navigation. As the story was told to me, the navigation of a waka or a canoe, if you like, across the great oceans, one of the key things about this navigation is that the navigator sits very, very still on the boat at all times. And what's actually happening is not that a boat is moving across and seeking to travel across the surface of the water, but rather that through that navigator it is locked on to a point in the universe using a star, and the navigator simply invites the boat to change its point of direction while the planet rolls under the boat. And so the movement happens from a stillness, and in the meantime that navigator is listening to the currents of the water, listening to the clouds and the movement of the weather, listening to all the different signs that come through the birds and the fish life that are all around, so that the role of the navigator in navigating the great vast unknown landscapes ahead is stillness, listening and locking on to a single point. So one of our big questions in through the big idea, wanting to support our creative community in professional endeavours, we were aware that there's no single path, there's no obvious career track for a creative practitioner. It's very much about navigating the unknown and navigating a great vast collective consciousness of oceanness. So what were the tools that we could provide that would help empower those navigators? So we took the image of the matang, which is one of the traditional maps or navigational tools used, which is made from a number of sticks crossed in, and my understanding is that those sticks and shells lashed onto that matang are giving information about ocean currents. And so the big idea's key symbol or logo became a kind of a play on that navigational device, being sticks. Simple, elemental, primordial language kind of acknowledged through that old navigational tool. Back to the source, hoki kinga waiora, it's about a collaboration of people from all different sectors of our community talking about water and talking about our relationship with water, our collaboration with water. So it's taking the conversation about water to a very personal level, an aspirational level. There's a lot of conversations around water at the moment, around rights and access to water, around our pollution of water, around climate change, our strategies with water. Back to the Source is wanting to encourage us to go back to the foundations of our relationship with water, to revisit that and to deepen our relationship with water, our personal relationship with water, so that from there we have a strong basis for making the decisions and the strategies for honouring of water. We are all very, very aware of the importance of water in our lives. It's fundamental to life. In New Zealand, it's fundamental to everything about our economy, to everything about our identity as an island nation. And different parts of the world clearly have similar critical need to understand and create a balanced and harmonious relationship with water. So Back to the Source says, let's collaborate as we learn more about what that is from a personal perspective. Yeah, I'm looking for the next generation of the way that we can communicate with each other across the globe in these ways. I've had many sort of dreams and visions of other interfaces and other ways, other tools that make those streams that I talked about of the digital internet and the water web of life come much more closely together. At the moment, they really are very, very different mediums for communicating. So I'm hoping that with this very, very first seed that we're planting, that we gather a community of people who are interested in going forward and taking this forward, with the recognition that what we're working with right now in terms of our digital tools is just very rudimentary and preliminary. My vision, as it is the vision and experience of many, many others around the world, is that perhaps one day we won't need the clutter of the devices that we've invented, and perhaps we'll find the higher capacities that are already built in come into full function.